The story begins with the hero talking about how he desperately wants to live. The first scene opens in the university hospital where the main character is being briefed about his medical condition. The doctor holds his diagnostic records and the patient's name is revealed to be Kim Isak. Unfortunately, Kim has a rare disease that has never been seen before, and as such, the doctor suggests that the illness will likely be named after him. To show how terrible the situation is for Kim, the doctor suddenly starts offering his condolences while he's still alive, and then goes on to reveal that he likely has only half a year to live at this rate. As you can imagine, this is horrible news for the protagonist, but the sad reality is that there's really nothing he can do about it. After his session with the doctor, Kim walks out of the hospital, and even though he's supposed to have about 6 months left to live, he looks as if he's already a dead man walking. As he makes his way through the crowds on the streets, people stop and stare at him, wondering what the hell is wrong with him, and it doesn't take him long to realize that they're all talking about him. He couldn't care less about that right now because he's still shaken by the fact that he'll be dead in half a year. He can't believe it because it's as if everything is going downhill for him just when his life looked like it was finally going great. For as long as he can remember, all he's ever done is live as a diligent worker ant, so the fact that he's just going to die very soon leaves him extremely confused. Kim is so lost in thought that he crosses the road on a red light, and just when he's about to be run over by the incoming vehicles, someone shoves him off the road to the other side. Even after this, Kim still doesn't realize what just happened because all he can't think about is how unfair it is that he only has a few months left on this earth. What makes his dilemma even more tragic is the fact that he got this terrible news on the same day that he finally won the lottery jackpot. Just thinking about this makes him even more desperate to live. He doesn't want to die, and he's ready to take anything else as long as he can live. Kim picks up the lottery ticket and screams in agony as tears run down his face, begging for someone to save him from death. In that moment, he felt like he was ready for any condition that would mean he'd get to stay alive, but he had no idea what fate had in store for him. Kim desperately wanted to stay alive, but he never expected what would follow. It turns out that in order for him to stay alive, he was reincarnated as a monstrous skeleton. He definitely didn't see this coming and also never suggested that he would be okay with such a transformation. Unfortunately, of all the things that he could have reincarnated into, he ended up being a bald skeleton. It's a really bad one for him because he doesn't even think that he can enjoy the best parts of this body. After the reincarnation, Kim finds himself being forced to battle and kill horrifying monsters in another realm. He's equally a terrifying creature now, and this transformation also granted him some really impressive battle skills along with the mastery of swordsmanship. Here, he's determined to kill all of the monsters, and after taking out several of the beasts, he's finally faced with the last one. By killing the last monster, he successfully completes his mission to exterminate the rebellious forces. This is all pretty unexpected for a person who found out he had only months left to live a while back, so how did Kim end up in this situation? Well, it all started after he was reincarnated as a skeleton, an inferior class summon monster which allowed him to evolve into an undead also known as a lick. This reincarnation brought him to another realm where he became recognized as the Undying Sovereign. He brought prosperity to the demon kind, who were on the brink of ruination before he arrived. As such, the demons adore him, which flatters him a lot because even though he's bald, at least he's the great demon king in this realm. The demons shower him with praise, talking about how his name alone sounds great and evil. It's at this point that we discover that Kim actually goes by King Isak in this realm, but it turns out that he's not really a fan of this name. Apparently, he's gotten tired of telling these idiots that his name is Isak since they've refused to get it right. The Demon King sighs in frustration as he laments about how his numbskulls can't even pronounce his name properly. Fortunately, he won't be seeing them for a while because him completing the last mission means that he can now leave this realm. He bids his demon subjects farewell, and they're shocked to hear that their king is leaving. They ask where he is going, and he informs them that he's leaving to go get what he is owed. His final goal is to be able to eat and even feel pain, and this can only happen if he becomes human again. The scene shifts after he bids his demons farewell, and then he makes his way to the divine realm. The celestial beings here are horrified when the Demon King suddenly appears without and starts climbing up the stars to address all of them. He stands before the gods and informs them that he has taken care of all the factions that have been challenging them, and so he's come to remind them of the promise they made to him in exchange for wiping out the threats. Apparently, they had a written contract which states that they would turn him into a human if he completes the task, and now he's come to claim his reward. The gods are shocked that the Demon King was able to complete the task so quickly and find it hard to believe that he took care of all their enemies. They thought that such an assignment would take him at least 500 years to complete, but they didn't know that Kim's determination is his greatest strength. Now, they're all bewildered, trying to figure out what kind of nut job the skeleton standing before them actually is. They don't know what they're supposed to do now because the whole contract was just a scheme that the higher-ups cooked up to make the Demon King their slave for free. They keep whispering about the situation, so Kim informs them that he can actually hear everything they're saying. He is starting to get a little annoyed because he doesn't get why they're dragging this out so much. They had a deal and he's kept his end of the bargain, so all he wants now is his reward so that he can be on his way. He reminds them of the agreement and makes it clear to them that he's done everything they asked for. At this point, the cunning gold-haired god finally responds to him. With a cheeky smile on his face, he reveals that there's one more thing they need from him. Hearing this, the Demon King is furious because he is starting to think that these guys take him for an empty-headed skull or something. He's so annoyed that he can't even hide it, so he snaps at them, asking if they think that he is just some kind of pushover. Just thinking about this leaves him furious, and if he had blood flowing in his body, it would definitely be boiling. For this, he decides that he'll make them pay, not caring whether they're gods or not. With this in mind, he unleashes a huge blast of power to intimidate the gods, demanding to know if they made him do all that he did when they didn't even have a way to turn him human again. Well, it turns out that this is what happened because as soon as Kim starts to lose his shit, the gods begin to panic. One of them claims that the Demon King must have realized their little scheme, and the other just starts claiming that this is why he was against the plan from the start, wondering why they ever made a contract with a lowly maverick in the first place. Hearing this, Kim is even more pissed, so he interrupts the arrogant god. The Demon King was summoned through a forbidden art, and so he's outside the bounds of the natural laws, which makes him an imperishable being. He can't die from old age because he's an undead, and on top of that, his abilities also make him a threat to the divine realm. Kim knows all of this, so he reminds them just how powerful he is and threatens to make them pay if they can't turn him into a human. At this point, the gods realize that they're about to face his wrath, so they immediately start to beg for some more time. They ask him to just take care of a few more problems for them, which is just annoyingly bold of them when they clearly didn't keep to their word the first time. Now that they've failed to keep their promise, the Demon King informs them that they will have to pay with their lives. That being said, he reveals that it's time for them to become skulls just like him, and then he proceeds to let out a villainous laugh. Just when Kim is about to deal with the lying bastards, he notices something strange happening to him. For some unknown reason, his mana starts to fade and he's suddenly unable to move his body. At this point, the cunning god from earlier reveals that he's the one responsible for this. He mocks Kim's efforts, calling them futile, and then reveals that the one whose name is written in their book will be unable to move no matter who they are. This crafty god wrote Kim's name there to activate the Banish Disaster spell, and reveals that it's the highest class holy art used to seal disasters as powerful as the Demon King. He claims that Kim should have been thankful that they even let him do their bidding. As far as he's concerned, Kim should have never even dared to defy them, and for his actions, they sentenced him to live as a bug for the rest of his days. Hearing this, the protagonist is simply heartbroken that he's about to undergo another terrible transformation. To him, the gods should have at least picked a fuzzy caterpillar or something like that. In response, the cunning god just calls him a lowly creature and wonders why he obsesses so much over hair. He's about to finalize the spell when the tables suddenly turn again. For some reason, the spell doesn't work and the gods become very confused. That's when Kim chimes in laughing. He claims that they should have been quicker and never revealed their hand to him because he'd rather blow himself up than become a bug. In the blink of an eye, the Demon King literally blows himself up in a massive way before the gods can even do anything to stop him. As the dust settles, the gods realize that Kim self-destructed, which makes them wonder if he's insane. Just then, they find a bug crawling nearby and they realize that the spell might have worked. They start to think that it actually activated and sealed the Demon King's soul, so they're pretty relieved. With the Demon King gone, the gods feel that they should be able to regain their powers because every time a demon disappears, they become stronger. As great as this all sounds, they also know that they can't afford to let their guard down just yet because they don't know when another disaster of the same ilk will be born. That being the case, the cunning god decides to create a perfect vessel of a saying in the human realm in order to exterminate every last demon there is and make sure that no disaster like the Demon King ever threatens their existence again. Hearing this, one of the junior gods asks the oldest one if he'll be okay because such a spell would exhaust a lot of his powers. However, he tells the guy not to worry about him and instructs him to select a proper soul to put in the body of the saint. As for the skeleton Demon King, who he believes is now a bug, he decides that he'll torture Kim for all of eternity. While that's happening, the scene shifts and everything goes dark. Here, Kim wakes up and starts to think that he might have lost his mind. He can't believe that he was conned by those gods and assumes that he must have gotten stupid because he was literally a brainless skeleton. Just then, the place becomes really bright, which catches him off guard. At first, he can't feel anything and figures that he doesn't have any hands because he's a bug, but then all of a sudden, he starts to feel some warmth and dampness before realizing that he actually has hands. Strangely, these are baby hands, and in that moment, he realizes that he has become human again, but he has no idea how. He remembers that those bastard gods wanted him dead, so the fact that he's still alive means that they messed up the seal somehow. While he's still wondering what the hell is going on, his thoughts are interrupted by someone who calls him the Holy One. The lady is so excited as she reveals that the saint has opened his eyes, and of course, our boy has no idea what she's talking about. The young man and the lady standing next to his cradle are surprised that he woke up from his nap already, and Kim quickly presumes that these guys must be his nanas or something, but the truth is that these guys aren't here to take care of him. They tell him that he needs to fall back asleep, and that's when he sees the baby bottle filled with poison. The man claims that the holy child needs to rest in peace, so it becomes clear that they're here to kill him at this point. Kim is horrified by this, but all he can do as a helpless baby is cry because he has no idea why he has to die again when he only just got reincarnated. The story continues with the evil nanny trying to force the bottle into Kim's mouth. Just when he tries to feed our little hero the poison, the baby turns his face to the side and literally uses his hand to shove the bottle away. The nanas are stunned when they see this and they can't believe it. They can't understand why the baby isn't eating, and while they're still trying to wrap their heads around this, Kim just turns to the side and pretends to fall asleep. He only just became human again, so there's no way in hell that he'll allow them to feed him such a suspicious substance so easily. As much as he'd like to remain alive in the human realm, another thing that really bothers him is the fact that he doesn't even know how he got reincarnated as a human baby in the first place. He still doesn't know what happened with the gods back in the divine realm, so the current situation is still pretty baffling for him. Just then, the nanas start begging him to eat like the baby he is and try to trick him, but their cover is blown when they suddenly refer to him as Suryazek. Kim's eyes widen in shock when he hears this and he instantly shoots up from the bed, wondering if he just heard right. Sure enough, he did, and he quickly realizes that this is the same name that he was called in the other realm because people there couldn't pronounce his real name correctly. This is the name that the gods used in the Banished Disaster spell to seal him away, so he figures that the reason why the spell didn't work on him was because they spelt his name wrong. That's why he didn't get sealed away and instead got reincarnated into a different body with the same name. He's so excited when he realizes this because he's now sure that the foolish gods failed to seal him away for good, even though they thought that they had gotten rid of him. His little celebration is cut short when the nanas suddenly start forcing him to take the poison in the bottle. They try to hold him down, but he resists them. Unfortunately, his baby strength isn't enough, so they overpower him and finally get him to drink the green juice. As he suspected, the stuff tastes very bad and he immediately confirms that it's a vegetable-flavored drink after only a few sips. Just as he feared, the strange juice starts to affect him, and all of a sudden, he can feel something ominous entering his body. His vision starts to blur, and the last thing he sees before everything goes dark are the nanas' sinister smiles. The scene shifts after this and we're suddenly taken to the Holy Empire Hela Central East Temple. Here, we get to see the mastermind behind the assassination attempt on the baby. A shady-looking priest is seen walking down the hall as he thinks about how the baby must be meeting his end right about now. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when another man talks about how lively he seems today. This blonde-haired noble is actually the emperor of the Holy Empire Hela, who goes by the name Alexander Heathcliff Hela. In response, the bishop and his priests bow to the emperor as they greet him and acknowledge him as the empire's son. Without exchanging pleasantries any further, the emperor cuts to the chase and bluntly asks the bishop what business he is coming here. In response, the shady priest quickly claims that they've come to greet the saint candidate of House Joshua. After all, the holy seer must be present in regards to the Holy One. The emperor doesn't seem to be a fan of these guys, and he doesn't even bother hiding it. He feels that the bishop makes it sound like a burden by saying that he must be present because it's the saint. He suggests that there would be a serious problem if something went wrong again after the saint candidate was left in the Holy See's care. The bishop becomes very nervous when the emperor says this, but he decides not to admit anything and instead denies knowing anything about that. While he's still trying to deny this, someone suddenly barges into the room. The guard informs them that something bad has happened to the young master. Without wasting another second, the emperor and his guards start running to the young master's room. Alexander bursts into the room to check on his son, and the nanas immediately reveal that the baby is completely fine. She talks about how cute he is and points to his plum belly. With a big smile on her face, she claims that the cute baby is such an angel. This is all really shocking because earlier, it looked like they were trying to kill him with poison, but now it's looking like they were just trying to feed him to death. Apparently, the poison didn't work because he's already drunk 15 bottles of the juice and nothing has happened. As you can imagine, the bishop who masterminded the whole thing is shocked when he sees this. He can't believe his eyes because he thought that the baby would be dead by now. The evil priest can't even wrap his head around it because the boy shouldn't be alive after drinking so much of the poison. After all, he knows better than anyone that the content of those bottles isn't just vegetable juice. Nobody knows how the baby survived, so let's rewind a bit and find out what exactly happened. Well, it all started a few minutes ago when the nanas gave him the drink for the first time. He started feeling dizzy and he could also sense the ominous energy entering his body. It was only after a few sips that he realized that it wasn't just any ordinary poison. It's actually holy poison, a devastating poison that destroys the holy power of the members of the clergy. It doesn't have any immediate effects, but because it's poison, it becomes deadly if too much accumulates in the body. With that being said, the fact that he drank 15 bottles already without being dead is just insane. Well, it turns out that there's a small tweak regarding the poison. Apparently, the poison is made from the mana of demons, so as a former demon king, this is just perfect for him. Giving things made from mana to a demon like him is amazing for him. He decides that he'll eat up all of the poison because as far as he's concerned, it's mana baby food. He likes it so much that he starts asking for more, and the clueless nanas just keep pumping him with the poison, thinking that they're getting closer to killing him. The baby enjoys it so much that he literally gives the baby a thumbs up while drinking it. The mana absorption is perfect for him, and after he's done with it, He starts to think about what he needs to do from now on and decides that he needs to enter the world beyond the conscious mind. Kim wants to explore the deepest part of the unconscious world and get to the source of it so that he can create the mana core. He believes that this place is safe for him, so he gets right to absorbing the mana that he's been fed with. Our boy starts by putting the mana that he absorbed into the mana core since he needs it to be able to use magic later. As such, he starts preparing, but then all of a sudden, a huge explosion ruins everything for him. He's so shocked because that wasn't supposed to happen. After the explosion, he sees a bright white light revealed, which leaves him pretty confused. As far as he knows, a mana core should be one of the 3 primary colors, so he doesn't get why it's white. Besides the color, he feels that there's even a bigger problem, which is the fact that so much power is contained inside the small core that isn't even fully formed yet. It's pretty baffling, but it's also good for him because it appears that the result of his mana absorption is even beyond his expectations. He attempts to go closer to the powerful mana core, and with each step, all he can do is wonder just how many blessings were crammed into this young body of his. He's so impressed and feels that he might even be able to become a much greater monster than he imagined if he manages to grow with this power. As he finally reaches the bright white core, he sees his new name, Isaac, boldly written on it, and without any hesitation, he pushes the survive button beneath it. It reminds him of the desperate desire to survive that was engraved within his soul. Back in his previous life, he wanted to survive no matter what, and in the end, that became the genesis of the Skeleton King. That made him able to create special original buffs and skills. And now, those skills were inherited by this new baby body, which is absolutely amazing for him. Back in the human realm, we see that baby Isaac is now fast asleep, and the evil nanas are anxiously watching him to confirm if he's finally dead after pumping him with several bottles of poison. After staring at him for a while, the lady tells her partner in crime to check the baby and confirm, but Isaac suddenly raises his hand in his sleep, which almost gives the nanas a heart attack. To their surprise, he literally asks for one more bottle of the green juice, requesting that it be stronger than all the ones before. The flashback scene finally ends and we're all caught up with the present. Now, Alexander is in the room as well, and he's pretty relieved to see that nothing bad happened to the child. If only he knows that the saint nearly got assassinated not too long ago. While most people around are relieved, the bishop is extremely nervous now. He notices Isaac staring at him from the cradle, and this makes him very uncomfortable. He knows what the evil priest was in on his assassination attempt, but he decides to play it cool. He feels that he can't afford to be suspicious no matter what, and decides that it's best to just keep a smile on his face and act like he has no idea. So, he does just that and starts smiling all of a sudden, which also manages to piss the bishop off. He's furious that the baby is still laughing because he expected that the child would have been dying as he coughed up blood. The scene shifts and we're taken a few days back at the headquarters of the Holy See. Here, someone reveals that whoever becomes the saint will possess the Holy Empire, and while most people in the story are okay with this, there are those who are not too happy about it. A certain long-haired character is particularly irritated by the thought of those pesky noble families having declared that one of their children to be the saint. He complains about this to the bishop, who seems to be one of his loyalists. The priest tells him not to worry and assures him that they're dealing with the other saint candidates. Hearing this, the man is pleased, but then he also admits that he heard a very unpleasant rumor earlier. Apparently, he also found out that a saint candidate appeared from House Joshua, and he's very annoyed just thinking about it. He's so pissed that he almost crushes the wine chalice in his hand. He knows that House Joshua is the emperor's right hand, so that's some really tough competition. The bishop gets really nervous at this point, claiming that there's nothing they can do about it because he feels that the baby died before they got there. This desperate noble is actually Harry Barrett, the cardinal and head of House Barrett. He reveals that he acted first to ensure the child's death, but now he needs someone to verify the corpse for him. Harry made an attempt on the child's life because he wants to make sure that the saint can only come from his house. As the flashback ends, we see the bishop boiling in anger as he sweats profusely. Lord Barrett told him that the child would be dead, so he doesn't get why that's not the case. The situation is bad for him at the moment because he knows that he can't go back to Harry with such bad news. Alexander admired the boy in his cradle, pointing out his shiny platinum blonde hair, which is the same color of hair that the emperor's found had. He expects the bishop to agree with him, but the priest just tries to advise him against such blasphemy. At this point, Isaac realizes that the man standing above his cradle is the emperor, and he's so taken aback. Alexander continues to admire the child, claiming that he even looks closer to God than the current pope. That being said, he concludes that Isaac must be the final saint candidate, and the moment he says this, our boy is absolutely stunned. He had no idea that he was the saint candidate, and he's finally starting to understand what's been going on. As you can imagine, the bishop isn't happy to see that the emperor is already favoring this child, and so he decides that he can't let it be. With this in mind, he comes up with a mischievous plan and requests permission to inspect the child. Alexander is reluctant to let this happen, so the bishop insists that something is odd about the boy, claiming that there's no way a baby could finish all that vegetable juice. Still, the emperor doesn't get what's so strange about that. While the bishop is working hard to execute his plan, our boy just lies there, wondering how he could be the saint candidate when he was literally the demon king not too long ago. The priest once again requests permission to inspect the child, but the emperor tells him that he can only proceed when someone from House Joshua arrives. At this point, the bishop becomes desperate, and while he's still trying to convince the emperor, our boy accidentally releases some demonic energy from his body. The moment that happens, he already knows he's busted, and sure enough, the sharp bishop senses the demonic energy. He informs the emperor of his discovery and suddenly becomes really confident that he'll successfully ruin the child's chances. Isaac sees the twisted look on the bishop's face and instantly realizes that the bastard noticed what happened. The cunning priest goes on to accuse our boy of being a fake candidate beating Mana and suggests that the inquisitor investigate the child immediately. Our boy curses at the back of his mind because he's afraid that his cover has been blown, but to his surprise, the emperor still defends him. Alexander snaps at the bishop, reminding him that he's speaking to the saint candidate. At this point, the priest uses the opportunity to talk about the candidate from House Berit. He tells the emperor not to worry and claims that the pope already selected the child from House Berit as his saint. Fortunately, Alexander doesn't subscribe to that nomination. In fact, he's annoyed that the pope would select a child from his own house as the saint and considers it a shameless move. While this exchange is going on, Isaac is literally sweating nervously in his cradle because he doesn't get why the bishop is trying so hard to get rid of him. Things get worse for our boy all of a sudden when the bishop picks him up from the bed and orders the priests to invite an inquisitor. Thankfully, just when it looked like the jig was up for our boy, the emperor halts the entire process. He reminds the bishop that House Joshua is the imperial family's closest ally, and as such, he strongly suggests that his child be reassessed at a later date. In response, the crafty bishop claims that he understands, but the look on his face suggests that he has no intention of changing his plans. While still holding Isaac in his arms, he reveals that he spoke to the pope earlier, who mentioned that he would hold the ceremony of investiture for the crown prince only after the saint's selection. This news comes as a big blow to the emperor because he immediately realizes that the pope doesn't plan on officially recognizing his son as the prince unless he agrees with his saint choice. This is a tough spot for the emperor because now he has to choose between this child that he deeply admires and his own son. Still in disbelief, he asks the bishop if this is truly the Holy See's intention, while our boy just concludes that the priest is a son of a bitch. Seeing just how much politics is involved in the whole thing, Isaac starts to feel like he doesn't even want to be the saint candidate anymore. It's clearly way too risky for him, and it would only be a matter of time before his true identity is revealed. Seeing how unsettled the emperor has suddenly become, the bishop offers another proposal, suggesting that they can just inspect the child right now and avoid having to engage in extremely dirty politics later on. The priest suggests using the holy exorcism arts, claiming that the child will be unharmed if he's a normal human, but he also makes it clear that Isaac will be exterminated if he turns out to be a demon. Before the bishop can even finish saying this, our boy lands a mean blow on his face which knocks out a few of his teeth along with some blood. After doing this, Isaac just starts mumbling a whole lot of gibberish which translates to him calling the bishop an arrogant son of a bitch. Seeing that the man is determined to blow his cover, our boy figures that it's best to play along with whatever game he is. With his cheek absolutely throbbing, he winces in pain and wonders how an ordinary bottle can hurt so much. Just then, he notices that the baby is literally glowing and begins to think that this light might actually mean that the child is truly the saint. He did sense some holy energy from the child too, but this one is different, and while he's still trying to wrap his head around it, Isaac hits him with the bottle a couple more times. The pain is unbearable, and after being brutalized by the baby, he confirms that this energy he's sensing is definitely mana. The emperor senses it as well, and he's so excited when he sees the bright light radiating from the child. While that's happening, our boy prepares to make the bottle even tougher with strengthening magic so that he can give the bishop one last hit that he won't forget, all while making sure that he looks like an innocent baby the whole time. Isaac lands the final blow on the old man's head, and it's so painful this time around that the bishop is forced to his knees. Seeing this, the emperor concludes that the priest must be admiring the baby's holy power. After beating the shit out of the old man, our boy notices something strange on his glowing bottle. It turns out that he senses a faint amount of holy power too whenever he uses mana. Mana and holy power are incompatible and normally can't be used together, so he figures that this strange combo must have something to do with that white mana core. Suddenly, the bishop has finally had enough, so he grabs the bottle and tosses it on the floor as he gets back on his feet with the child still in his arms. He then claims that the baby is a heretic and insists that they use the holy exorcism arts immediately. Our boy is just disappointed when he sees that this piece of shit still hasn't learned his lesson. Since the bishop has refused to give up and mind his own business, Isaac decides that it's time to pull out the big guns. He wasn't planning on going this far before, but now he has no choice. The baby suddenly reaches under the priest's sleeve and reveals a very interesting item that the man has been hiding there. It's a strange demon hand with a cross on it, which our boy identifies as the corpse of a sealed high-ranking demon, also known as a totem. This is an artifact that utilizes the characteristics of demons, who eat corpses of other demons and absorb their mana. Our boy was actually keeping this totem on him at all times to use against demons if he ever encountered them, and so it was pretty easy for him to detect one nearby. The bishop is bewildered that the baby knew about his totem, and before he can do anything about it, Isaac throws it to the floor, activating its magical energy. As the mummified hand begins to unravel, our boy makes it clear that this is all happening because the old man kept coming after him, and now he'll have to face the consequences of his actions. With the snap of his finger, Isaac activates the totem, which brings the demonic monster to life in seconds. As the beast awakens, our boy gets really excited because now he'll get to watch the filthy bishop try and parry this threat all by himself. The story continues with the monster coming to life, leaving everyone around absolutely terrified. None of them are able to understand how a shadow lick of all creatures could be here. The emperor is particularly furious at the bishop because he never thought the priest would be dumb enough to let a demon loose in the temple. Clearly, nobody saw what Isaac just did, so the bishop is forced to take the blame. He tries to defend himself, claiming that it was the baby that threw the totem, but Alexander just dismisses his excuse, reminding him that a totem is just an object used to seal a demon beast. As far as he's concerned, a baby is incapable of activating the artifact, and so he's convinced that the bishop is responsible. As if the situation wasn't already annoying enough for the priest, the emperor suddenly orders all of his forces to focus on protecting the saint candidate from the demon beast. As such, several guards rush to take Isaac away from the bishop, all oblivious to the fact that the kid is the mastermind. Our boy just laughs at the old man as the guards carry him to safety. He taunts the bishop and patiently waits to see how the old man will deal with the demon on the loose. All of a sudden, the shadow lick starts chanting something that instantly changes the situation. It turns out that this hooded demon that our boy just brought back to life is actually mandated to kill the saint, who just happens to be him in this life. So, when he hears the demon saying this over and over, the smug look on his face disappears and is instantly replaced with a look of confusion. The shadow lick charges at the guards trying to protect him, but even though the monster is absolutely terrifying, they all stand their ground, determined to protect the young lord. Isaac has no idea what the hell is wrong with the creature because he literally saved its life and now it's trying to attack him. As much as he should be worried, he feels pretty relaxed because he believes that the paladins should be able to protect him from the demon. Unfortunately, it couldn't be more wrong about this because the next thing he sees is the first guard getting knocked out with ease, which makes him wonder if the guy is actually a paladin. Just like that, the monster continues to close in as it keeps screaming its desire to kill the saint. The demon wipes out the guards easily and doesn't take long before it's just Isaac and the last paladin, who looks like he's about to shit his pants. At this point, he subjugates the demon first before it kills everyone in the temple. After all, no one would notice him using his demonic magic in a situation like this. He feels a little disappointed that everyone is trying to kill him in this new life and you only just got here. He's even more annoyed at this shadow monster because he is the one who brought it back to life and yet it's trying to kill him. Just when it looks like it's about to finish him off, he uses a powerful spell on the foolish shadow lick and instantly reveals his true demon king nature to it, leaving it terrified and subjugating it instantly. The creature holds its attack at that moment and our boy follows up with another huge expression of his magic. He starts glowing brightly and the magical energy radiating from his body is so powerful that it leaves the emperor and everyone else watching in a daze. They're bewildered by his power and the shadow lick is also overwhelmed by it, so much so that it tries to make a run for it. The paladins notice that the demon is trying to escape, but none of them do anything about it because they probably prefer it running away than having to face it. After the shadow lick escapes, the emperor and his guards immediately conclude that the young lord just used holy power. They just witnessed Isaac drive a greater demon out of the temple with his magical power, and this just makes Alexander even more endeared to him. The guards surround the child and begin to shower him with praise. The one carrying him claims that the boy is so amazing at such a young age, and the other states that it's just the kind of thing expected of the young lord. While they're all drooling over him, the baby in question suddenly notices his glowing with even more magical energy and he finally realizes that this is actually holy power. It's really baffling for him because this can only mean that he's run out of mana. Either that's the case or this strange body is somehow turning his mana into holy power. Isaac isn't too happy about this development because he doesn't know how he's going to accumulate mana now, and that might be a problem because the Holy Empire already lacks mana. While he's still pondering on this, the bishop regains consciousness. The guards try to help him up but he just snaps at them and keeps trying to go after our boy. He insists that the child is a heretic that uses the powers of demonkind and he's furious that such a person made it into the Holy Empire. Even after everything that has happened, this bishop is still determined to prove that the kid is not the true saint. He's ready to do whatever it takes to make sure that the emperor agrees with the pope's choice, so he offers to prove that Isaac is a demon and uncover his real identity with an exorcism. As you can imagine, the emperor has had enough of the priest trying to discredit the not-so-innocent baby. He's pissed that the bishop is accusing the saint candidate of being a demon, and on top of that, Alexander still thinks that he's the one that let the greater demon loose in the temple. With everything that has gone down today, the emperor makes it clear that he will not let this matter go. Right now, he doesn't even care if the old man is from the Holy See. Seeing how mad Alexander is, the bishop begins to panic because he knows that it won't take long for him to find out about the infiltrator if he becomes suspicious. If that happens, then the Holy See could also be in trouble, so this cunning priest decides that he must do anything to take responsibility for what happened so that he can protect his family, even if it means that he'll be executed. The only way you make sure of this is by killing the saint candidate of House Joshua and taking the fall, and he's determined to do this. With this in mind, he activates his blood spirit animal and charges at the baby. Our boy sees the incoming attack, but he's not bothered in the slightest. In fact, he just looks disappointed that the dumb bastard is finally showing his true colors after so long. He also finds it really shameful that the bishop even thinks that he can kill the former demon king with such a weak attack. Well, this is what our boy is feeling until he suddenly remembers that he no longer has any mana left on him. His eyes widen in horror as the realization hits him, because now it's almost too late for him to do anything or come up with another plan. All he can do now is watch as the massive wolf monster charges at him with blistering speed. Just when it looks like his time in this body might finally be up, a magical attack comes out of nowhere and incapacitates the bishop. Our boy is surprised to see this because he has no idea where that counterattack just came from. While he's still trying to process what just happened, a white-haired figure appears, demanding to know who dares try to lay a hand on the direct lineage of Joshua. It turns out that this guy who just saved our boy is actually Rilai, the seventh son of House Joshua, who came just in the nick of time with the other knights. Seeing that the bishop was responsible for the assassination attempt, Rilai orders his execution. The bishop tries to resist, but the Joshua knight sees him immediately, so he just starts begging until he's dragged out of the scene. As for all the others in the temple, Rilai instructs them to show their manners, so they all bow down to pay respect to the young master of House Joshua. Afterward, Rilai apologizes to our boy for taking so long, and the kid is just amazed by the fact that the Joshua Knights are even better than the Imperial Knights. The seventh son reveals that he brought a little present for Isaac, and even before it's revealed, our boy starts wondering if it's gold. Unfortunately, it's not gold, and it also happens to be the worst present they could have gotten him, because it's literally a figurine of the Skeleton King being beheaded. As if that's not already disturbing enough, Rilai reveals that they also have a figurine of the Demon King being burned to death. That's not even the worst one, because there's also a figurine of the Saintess crushing the Skeleton King. As you can imagine, our boy would very much prefer to pass on these presents because they might actually give him nightmares if he keeps them. Anyway, since he can't talk yet, all he can do is stare at the toys with horror laced all over his face. The Joshua Knights must have missed the young master a lot while he was away, because they can't seem to get enough of his cuteness. While they're busy fawning over how pretty the baby is, all our boy can think about is how difficult it will be for him to survive in a crazy show like this that's obsessed with killing the Demon King in the most horrible ways. He's so lost in thought that he doesn't even realize when a tear runs down his face, and when the guards see it, they just conclude that he likes the figurine so much that he was pushed to tears. That marks the end of the first episode for this series, but you bet that I'm already working on the next one, and I'll be covering all the available chapters as soon as possible. So if you're excited to find out more about this story and enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe to the channel for future uploads. And of course, if you leave a like on this video, it would greatly help boost the algorithm for this channel. Any and all help is appreciated. Until next time.